Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is VP Chiwenga in 2017, just a few weeks before the military coup of November 15th, 2017. He was waving the country's constitution and threatening that there was a serious threat to social instability because of corruption and the economic turmoil. In the end, he and his friends in the army staged the military coup of November 2017 and booted out the old dictator Robert Gabriel Mugabe, ostensibly to restore order and stamp out corruption. He waived the constitution, insisting that the coup was upholding the constitution. This was, of course, nonsense. He could not quote a chapter and verse in the constitution that said the military coup was legal, justified, and constitutional, because there's no such chapter and verse. What the people of Zimbabwe failed to accept at that point was that the military coup was really no different from all the rigged elections of the past. The people themselves had no say in who was to govern the country after the coup, just as they'd never had any say in rigged elections. Chiwenga and his fellow army generals knew very well that Zanu-PF had been rigging elections all along. So in terms of restoring the rule of law, I think that could be dismissed with the contempt it rightly deserves. The other issue was the coup was supposed to restore the economic chaos that was threatening the country's stability. Well, corruption was rampant during Mugabe's time. But ever since, to be quite honest, it has become even worse. Or this pretense that Chiwenga and company were stamping out corruption is utter nonsense. This is a cartoon depicting the seriousness of the situation we are in. In 2017, we can see in that cartoon Robert Mugabe carrying two bags of the loot and some of his other key assistants carrying their little loot as well. In 2024, we have got Mnangagwa and all those wearing the trademark scarf, and in front of them, bags of looted wealth. There is no denying that corruption has become rampant ever since the military coup. Here is one of the individuals who have benefited from the corruption in Zimbabwe today, Wicknell Chivayo.
It's a dining area. Okay.
That's your kitchen.
Oh, then there's a kitchen. So you said it's called a apartment, a residence. And it's how much a night?
£4 more than £4.
£4,000 a night. That's not bad though, because it's very comfortable and it's right in the center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have some other specialty residences as well with the balcony. We're looking at Tower Bridge.
Amazing. This is Wicknell boasting, showing off one of his latest acquisition. An apartment in the city center of London costing £4,000 a night. And this is all part of the looted wealth that Zanu-PF, the ruling elite and their cronies have been amassing. In a recent speech, VP Chiwenga in Victoria Falls was talking of how corruption was now causing a serious security threat. It is rich coming from him, of course, because he definitely is corrupt himself. He has amassed a lot of wealth and property. Zimbabweans would know of some of the wealth that he had amassed when he was going through one of his divorces with one of his wives. The number of farms, cars, Porsche cars, businesses, mansions in his name. And he's reckoned to, at that point, that he had 45 gold watches, to say nothing of all the other models, all from looted wealth. He is now obviously campaigning that there should be a second coup. This is, of course, utterly nonsensical. All we are doing here is going through a vicious cycle. The last coup failed to deliver democracy and rule of law, despite the fact that Chiwenga was waiving the constitution before the coup. And it has also failed to stamp out corruption, because he himself is acknowledging that corruption is rampant. And now we are talking of yet another coup. What will change? Nothing. We are just recycling the same corrupt individuals who have been looting the country's wealth. All they are doing here is one faction is falling out with another faction. And they're using that, the excuse of restoring rule of law, the excuse of stamping out corruption, to fight off the other faction. The people of Zimbabwe should not fall into this trap. As much as we would want to end corruption, we've got to be realistic. as much as we would want to end dictatorship, we must be realistic. People like VP Chiwenga will never end the dictatorship because he is a dictator in his own right. All he is fighting for here is for power. He wants to be the next dictator. If you seriously think that in this factional fight between Mnangagwa and this VP will deliver democracy, you are naive. If Chiwenga was to win this fight to be the Zanu-PF candidate for 2028, you will rig the 2028 elections. Just as much as if Mnangagwa prevails and is the Zanu-PF candidate for 2028, he will rig the 2028 elections, just as he rigged last year's elections. I think people of Zimbabwe must smarten up. We must insist on democratic change to deliver free, fair, and credible elections. That should be our focus. There is a golden opportunity to end the Zanu-PF dictatorship. Zanu-PF is at its weakest during elections. Zanu-PF knows that as long as it can bribe the opposition to participate in these flawed elections, it will have legitimacy. And at the present moment, the regime has got the upper hand. All this rampant corruption by the likes of Chivayo are generating incredible wealth for the ruling elite. And they are using that wealth to bribe the opposition. The opposition will participate in 2028 elections because they know that Zanu-PF will let the opposition win a few gravity seats as long as that opposition is able to entice or con its supporters into participating. Zanu-PF would not have got political legitimacy last year, for instance, if the MDC supporters had not participated in their millions in last year's elections. This is at the heart of the argument. Zanu-PF is using part of the looted wealth to bribe not only the poor who were bussed from one rally to another, the chiefs and church leaders were given cars, the MPs, judges, and ministers who were given housing loans, which we all know they never will have to repay back, to the tune of 40,000, 400,000, and $500,000 US. Zanu-PF is using that wealth, that looted wealth, to bribe all those officials, including the opposition. The real people who are being shortchanged here is the ordinary Zimbabwean, who, by participating, will only achieve to give Zanu-PF legitimacy, give the opposition leaders who conned them into participating the benefit of the few grave veteran seats, while they and the rest of the populace suffer. All we have done is perpetuate the dictatorship. I think we need to confront this Chamisa Chete Chete brigade and make sure that this madness is stopped. It is within our power to stop it. And we must stop it. VP Chiwenga's overtures about corruption is causing social, political, and economic instability is very true. But let's not be fooled into believing that he is the man who can stop it. He has no intention of stopping it. He got into power, position of VP in 2017, on the back of making those promises, but we know he did not deliver them. So we should not be easily conned again. The fight at the present moment, like I said, is to stop those Chamisa Chete Chete brigade participating in flawed elections to give Zanu-PF legitimacy. This is the fight that we must be involved in actively. The worst thing that can happen is come 2028, millions of these Chamisa Chete Chete brigade are conned into participating in another flawed election. Because at the end of the day, we will only have ourselves to blame for it. We can stop them, and we must stop them. Thank you very much for those of you who were able to join tonight, and I hope you'll be able to do it tomorrow as we continue this debate. Stopping Zanu-PF perpetuating the dictatorship is the biggest challenge of our generation. Thank you and have a good evening.